I think we are now live. Yes.
Woohoo.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. This disembodied voice is Caitlin, and welcome to today's Gatsby Web Creators session, Intro to HTML, and I'm going to hand it over to Marcy and Aisha.
Hello, welcome to Stream 2 of Gatsby Web Creators. I am one of your hosts, Marcy Sutton. I'm the head of learning at Gatsby, which is a website framework company, and we're going to learn more about creating HTML content, do some fun creative stuff. And I'm joined by Aisha Blake. Do you want to introduce yourself, Aisha?
Absolutely. So I am also a software engineer on the learning team with Marcy at Gatsby, and I'm excited to be here.
Yay! So this is day 2. Day 1, we talked about the absolute intro to HTML, one of the major building blocks in creating a website. So today we're going to expand on that and learn some more HTML elements, focusing on giving you the tools to create your own web pages. And we're using a platform called Glitch. So glitch.com, we have a team page of Gatsby Web Creators. It's shared on our Gatsby Web Creators landing page that if you're signed up to our mailing list, you can get updates periodically, including links to these pages and extra resources. So you can play around with Glitch. We have 2 exercises or 2 projects on here. We'll be looking at the week 1, day 2 exercise today, and you can take that, open it up, and remix it. I've already done that, and so I'm actually going to create that example from scratch today. Aisha is going to talk me through creating some fun content with HTML. So let's see, what else is there to know about Glitch? Anyone can join. You can play with projects without creating an account, which is pretty fun for dabbling and trying on different code projects. So for our day 2 project, we have I have this scratched file that I'll be playing with Aisha. A little bit of a recap and tour of what we have in this project. There is a README file, which has some information about what's in this project. It's got some resources with links that would come in handy. I'm actually going to make an update to fix something that I see isn't working correctly. So Markdown formatting is a way to format text in a way that's really nice for writing. But for creating content on our site, we're going to be focused on HTML. So I've got an index.html file here. And if you're in a project, you can use this share section to share a link to the project to invite your friends to edit. Let's see what else. So you can also remix a project. So that's how you start from a project and then create your own version of it that you can customize. Let's see, what else is really cool about this area? On the show, you can show your code and the web page right next to it. And this change URL can give you a place to, so I could copy this and then I can open it in a browser and share it with my friends. So effectively, you could use Glitch to create your own website with your own content. So that's really what we want to focus on is filling out pages with content that makes you happy and you can learn something. So to kick things off, I have a question for you, Aisha.
What is your question, Marcy?
And I will, quick note is that we do have a little bit of a delay. So if you have questions, you can chime in with them anytime. But Aisha, my question for you is, what is your favorite animal movie?
Oh, okay. So thinking back all the way to childhood, my favorite animal movie, honestly, I think still today, is called Cats Don't Dance. It is about a cat who moves to Hollywood and wants to be an actor, and he has to kind of fight to make sure that the animal actors in Hollywood are given really important pivotal roles. It is a musical, which, you know, maybe if you know me, you can expect. But yeah.
Aisha is very musical. I have not seen this movie, but now I really want to watch it. My favorite animal movie, that at least the one that comes to mind most recently, is called A Dog's Way Home. And it's a true story about a dog that gets moved to a new family in New Mexico, and it really wants to go home to its original place in Colorado. So the movie follows this dog going through forests and mountains and, encountering wildlife, and really this adventure that this dog goes on to find its family that it's missing so desperately. And it's just a really neat movie that I think about a lot. So that's my favorite animal movie. And for anyone watching on Twitch, you can chime in with your favorite movies in the chat.
It looks like we've got at least one. Somebody, Pyexley. I'm gonna work on these names. Really loves Bolt. It looks like we've got at least one in there. And we've also got a few people hosting us. So thank you to Joxon, Haitians in Tech again, and Patch again. Thank you.
Awesome. So glad people can join us. We will have a bit of an animal theme, at least for today. We'll see if that continues. So next week, we'll dive more into CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So today we're focused on the content. Starting next week, we'll focus more on styling and making it pretty and cute or moody, whatever look you want to add onto your web pages that suits your own style. So with this time, let's dive into some more HTML. So we've got an HTML page here, a bit of a scaffolding that we can use to build out a page. A little bit of a recap is that I'm going to hide this screen. For every HTML page, you start with a doc type, which tells the browser what type of a file it's loading, what format. And then we've got these tags that go into every HTML file. So HTML wraps everything. We're marking that it's in English with this language attribute. There's a head, which is, it holds metadata and things kind of behind the scenes. So this part doesn't show up on our web page. Other than the title, which we talked about on Wednesday, does show up in the tab for when you actually open the URL for your glitch site. But we're going to focus on the main content on this page. So if I get my window a little more scrolled around. So in our header, we've got an H1 that says animal friends, and it has this, what we call an entity for the hearts, because I love hearts, bit of a fan of the heart shape. And so if I was going to add something on this page to keep track of how recently it's been updated, I might try doing something like, I'm going to add a paragraph. So the P tag, use these angle brackets to create a P for paragraph. And I might make this italics with the EM tag for emphasis. And I could say last updated. And then I'm going to use a new element here called the time element. And inside of the time, I could write, let's see, March 27th, 2020, because that's today, right? 27th. And then there's an attribute here to make this more consumable by computers, so they can use this date format in different ways. So the date time, I believe, is the attribute that we want. And let's see, so the format for this, we actually have a handy resource listed in our README file. So the time element represents a specific period in time. You can use it for dates and actual times like you would have on your watch. And you can use different formats. So depending on how much detail you want to include, you can kind of change the display of it versus its machine readable, this date time attribute. So let's see, if I was going to mark date time for today's date, it would be 2020-03-27. So let's go add that. I'm going to say 2020-03-27. And so this date time attribute is kind of a behind the scenes attribute. So it doesn't show up on the screen like the actual text here. The text you could fill in kind of however you want this to be displayed. This is a bit of a manual process, the way we're doing it. So each time you would come back and update your file, you could change the date. And so that's a pretty neat way to mark something to say, hey, I touched this recently, or this was last updated a while ago. Can be a nice thing for your readers to know how active are you on your web pages. And then, as you get more advanced, you could potentially script this so that it updates automatically if you make an update. That's a bit of an advanced scenario. So doing it manually is a great way to go. So we've got date time. Let's see. I think we could start building out some content in our main content. So there's the header, which is things like navigation and your main heading, this last updated. Main, as we talked about in our last stream, is about the bulk of your content, like the main body of content. And then we also have a footer here still with a copyright entity, and then the date for 2020. And my dog, Rainier McChetterton, he's just an expert, and he should get the attribution he deserves.
Absolutely.
So I want to add some sections to this document on dogs and cats. They're really important figures in the world, and they should be highlighted as friends. So I'm going to add some sections here. So the section element is a great way to group things that are related. I'm going to add 2 of these. So I've got section with the opening and closing HTML tags. Inside of these, I'm going to add a heading for an H2. So we have H1 up in our header, and we're going to create a structure throughout this document using H2s. So if I said kitties, maybe, a little casual. And then in the dog section, I'm pretty partial to doggos. We could start.
I have my own preferences, but you're driving, so
do tell. I would love to hear your preferences.
So personally, with dogs that I know, I tend to use fuzzbutt, but pups. Pups is probably my go-to.
Pups. Let's do pups. I feel like we get enough doggos. I do have a solution for adding additional, keywords, text, things like that. If I were going to add some text here about kitties, so last stream we talked about lists. We were creating, list items that were ordered and unordered. Today I want to focus more on paragraphs and getting bodies of text that maybe you're writing the text, or maybe you just want to play with building out a web page and not have to worry about writing so much. I have a tool for you. It is called Cat Ipsum. And this is what's called a lorem ipsum generator. So in the content world and design world, sometimes if you're making a website and you just need to get some content in there to kind of see the shape of it and have something to fill it out, so you're not just like typing a bunch of random characters. Lorem ipsum generators, there's a bunch of different types, but there is a Cat Ipsum and another one called Doggo Ipsum.
Nice.
And when you go to these sites, you can get content that you can copy and paste. So I'm going to copy maybe a few sentences. I'll make this a little bit longer. So I'll get maybe 2 paragraphs worth of content. And I'm going to go back over to my project. So to copy, by the way, on my Mac keyboard, I'm using Command-C. On a Windows machine, it would be Control-C. And then when I go back over to my project, on a Mac, I can do Command-V to paste. So C and V, copy and paste. Why it's V and not, P is probably already taken for print. Who knows? If anyone has a knowledge of why it's Command-V for paste, I would love that trivia answer. So I've got a bunch of text in here. It's pretty long for a single paragraph. So I'm actually going to copy part of this. So we'll have kind of an introduction, and then I'm going to put this in another type of element called the details and summary elements. So we have details, it's an opening and closing tag, and I'm going to paste my content in here. Now the details is creating a little collapsible section, and so to label, by default, it calls it details, and I can click this little caret and text. I can also customize that text with a summary element. So summary, we could say more Cat Ipsum, maybe, or more details, more cat details, cat info, cat facts, whatever you want to call it. You can sort of have a bit of an overflow solution if you have a ton of content. And the really cool thing is that details and summary, if I use my keyboard and I tab onto this little control and I hit the enter key, I can collapse and open and close this details and summary element using my keyboard, which is really cool. Love that I can do that. So we've got some cat ipsum. Let's go find some dog ipsum. So I'm going to make another paragraph. I'm going to go over to doggo ipsum, and I've already hit the button to generate this, but you can pick how many paragraphs you want. I am pretty partial to doggo ipsum. So I'm going to copy some of this text. It's quite a bit of text like we had from the cat ipsum. So I'll probably, slice up this content a little bit, and I'm going to make another details element. And I'm going to do the Command V on my Mac to paste. And then inside of this, I'm going to add another summary element. And I'll probably say more doggo ipsum, or more dog ipsum, whatever you want to call it. And so I've got this overflow now where I can add more and more content and have it handled nicely, collapsing. So if you had some information that maybe wasn't critical, but you wanted to add more context, you could add these details and summary elements to nicely tuck it away and have your pages be organized, but still provide all the information that, it's really critical information that cats secretly make all the world's muffins, jump, launch to pounce upon little yarn mouse. I mean, reading these ipsums out aloud is one of my favorite pastimes. Shuberino doing me a frighten. I mean, who doesn't love that? So if anyone has other lorem ipsum generators that they are fans of, we'd love to hear about it in the comments. So, okay. And I know there's ones like bacon ipsum, veggie ipsum, David Bowie ipsum, if you know him, is a musician. Lots of really good ones. So pretty fun if you want to just fill in your web page and play with HTML elements. So we've got some good stuff going on here. I would love to introduce another content element. And maybe I'll break up the paragraph and details with something called a block quote. I type the word block quote. It has opening and closing tags. And let's say, the cats, Rainier McChetterton, the dog, wrote this page, so he'd probably say cats are jerks. I mean, that would be my guess for what he would say. The block quote element is really neat. It will take a quote or, something you want to call attention to. It'll sort of indent it by default and add some emphasis so it sets it apart from regular bodies of text. I mean, what would the dog say if I add a block quote to the dog section? I'm imagining he might say something like, dogs are excellent friends. And if I want to attribute this to him, I could use the cite element for, citing a reference or somebody who made the quote. And I could say, I add a dash kind of for style, but I could say, someone said this, definitely not the dog. Definitely not the dog. He wouldn't say cats are jerks. I mean, he did author this page. So you can play with quotes, you can make up quotes and make them look very official, which I always thought was really fun. Okay, so block quotes. We've got the cite element. We've got details and summary. So we're getting some fun text formatting in here. Let's see. We can start adding more content here. I have an idea. If you wanted to format text, like say you're working with numbers or even some kind of science notation, like if I wanted to say that cats are really first. So when you have a number and then the letters that follow, like first, second, third, that sort of thing, the ST in first is superscript. So it's kind of placed above the number. So there's actually an element for that. I could say SUP for superscript, and it's an opening and closing tag. And inside of it, I could put the letters ST. And that creates this formatted piece of text that says that kitties are first. You know, we have a give and take here with cats and dogs, and they might claim to be first. I mean, my cat will hog the water bowl, and definitely she claims to be first, but the dog will bump her out of the way. So it's kind of a struggle. But I'll give the cats this win. You know, they can be first. Dogs, I guess, speaking of water bowls, maybe I could use the other direction. So we had superscript. There's also subscript where you can mark something as kind of below the line of text. So maybe if I had the notation for water, which is H2O, I could have, you know, you type it out, and then I'm going to wrap whichever bit of text needs to go underneath with the sub tag. So the 2 in H2O in the science notation should sit below kind of the baseline of the H and the 0. So H2O here becomes a properly formatted phrase. And so you can use subscript and superscript to do some pretty cool formatting. Any other, let's see, do any use cases come to mind for you, Aisha, for using subscript and superscript?
Ooh. So I think about, I often think about the notation of the different elements, of course. Of course, I think about writing out water. But I also think about like representing math problems. So maybe you're writing about a homework assignment, or you're doing like a quiz website for you and your friends to practice. You could write out. You could use that to write out some of your math problems. So, you know, let's say I wanted to do x squared. I could use superscript for that.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Maybe we could play with that somewhere. X squared. So that was superscript. X squared. That's so cool. I mean, and since it's a tag, you can write in whatever you want. So you can get pretty creative with playing. I guess the real value of having these tags is you're marking them with HTML to provide meaning. So not only do we have the display of it, so you can get creative with the display and, you know, put things in sub or superscript that don't really need to be. That's kind of fun. You can. But there is an underlying purpose to these tags in that they programmatically, so the computer can tell what the meaning of this markup is. So not only the way it looks, but what its purpose is, you know, how another computer could read it and derive meaning from what's otherwise, you know, a random string of characters on the screen. So it's some of the really neat power of HTML is that you can put your content on a screen visually, but you can also structure it to provide some more of this meaning. And that can be really useful for if you want, you know, search engines like Google to appropriately read your content and gather the meaning of it. It's really great for people who use screen readers and assistive technologies to read your content if they can't see the screen. These tags really give some meaning for people consuming your pages in different ways, which I think is pretty awesome. So you know what this is really missing though, Aisha, is some videos. I mean, cat videos are...
It's really the cornerstone of the internet.
Yeah, they make my world go round. So I have I've selected a few animal videos that I would love to work in. So this could be a useful, whether or not you want your own webpage to have animal videos. I mean, you really can't go wrong. But maybe you're more into something like tumbling or robotics or makeup tutorials, or, you know, really whatever your passion is. You could create a web page that like aggregates your favorite content, and you can make pages that capture, you know, this moment in time of what you're really loving, what's making your days brighter and more interesting. Animals really give me a lot of comfort, so that's why I'm pulling them in. So we'll start there, but my advice would be to find whatever you're passionate about and create web pages. You know, the stakes are pretty low. You can create web pages for free and share them with your friends and make changes. And so it's a really rich environment to be creating and capturing things that you're excited about. So how I would go about adding a video, I mean, we could watch a video. This one, I'm going to let it play, and I'll talk over it a little bit to describe what's happening. There's oh, we do have audio. They're playing with dominoes. I think my internet hopefully holds up. I can still hear you, so I think we're fine. Maybe I'll just hit refresh on this video. Here we go. Cats with dominoes. Cat in a basket, watching the dominoes go by. They have these contraptions where, you know, a rock goes down or something that rolls, maybe a marble. And this seems like something maybe you could build at home if you have dominoes and cats.
They definitely have a lot of kits like this now, where you can kind of build your own puzzles and contraptions and set things up.
So now there's a break in the dominoes where there's a plate with some kind of yummy treat for the cat, and it's licking the plate really close to the edge of two dominoes that are stacked up. And so, but it licked everything off the plate. So I'm really curious how these dominoes are going to continue, because the cat ate everything already without knocking them over. It looks like it's going to walk away. So I'm riveted to know, how are these dominoes going to keep going? It went back to the plate. Oh, and it knocked him with its head. So now the dominoes have continued. There's a cat in a box. These sequences of cats and dominoes, I'm always so curious, how are they going to keep them going when there's a break? Now it looks like the cat needs to touch this box somehow. And I guess it opens the box. A little kitty paw reaches out. It's pretty awesome. They're still going. It hit a bell. So now a cat is coming over to the bell. Like, how does anyone train a cat to do any of this? It hits the bell a couple times. Sending a ball into a little car. This is very elaborate. Doing a cat stretch. These keep going and going and going. So there's probably another minute and 20 seconds in this video. So if you had a video that you really enjoyed, you can embed it in your web page and save it for posterity, come back and watch it a billion times. So if I've got a video like this and I want to embed it on my web page, YouTube has this button that says share. So I'm going to click it. It pops open a little dialog. If I go to this embed option, it shows me this embed video screen, and it's got some code that I can copy. I'm going to scroll down under the embed options. There is this enable privacy enhanced mode, which if you're 13 and up, if you're a kid creating content, I would recommend adding this privacy enhanced mode. It's nice to just, your analytics and information isn't being tracked as much. So for this type of purpose, I think that can be a nice option to check. But it is up to you whether you care about that very much. But I'm going to hit copy. If I wanted to start a video at a certain timestamp, I could do that here. But I'm going to hit copy, and I'll go back over to our project. And let's see, where should we add this video? Maybe under the cat ipsum. Inside the section, I'm going to add another heading, and I'm going to say H3, and here are some cat videos. And I'll do a ... There's actually an entity that I could use here. So if I'm going to highlight these 3 dots, and I'm going to do @ for ampersand, and then the letters HELLIP, semicolon. I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Looks
I got
good
it.
to me.
I was looking at the cats are jerks. So we've got, and I made this in H3 because we had an H2 up here that says kitties first. So to have it structure like in an outline, the H3 comes under the H2, creates a nice structure here, since that is sort of like a sub item. And then after this H3, I'm going to do Command V for paste. So I've got this iframe now that's putting content into the web page. YouTube suggested a width and height, so these attributes. So I have a width attribute equals open quote. It says 560 in the close quote. It has a suggested height attribute of 315. So those are pixel values. And right now in my screen, the video is kind of stretching out the page. So say you're on a phone, or in this format, it's just a skinny column on my browser window. I want this to fit better. So I'm going to change this width attribute to 100%. So rather than saying this is 535 pixels wide, I'm going to make it flexible by giving it a percentage. So 100%, it did scale the video down, so now it fits and I don't get horizontal scrolling. So this will load a little bit better on a phone or, in the skinny browser window. And there's one other thing I want to add to this. So on the iframe element, I'm going to write title. I'm going to do opening and closing quotes. And inside of here, so I want to tag this iframe, which is the code that YouTube gave us to embed their player. We didn't have to add all of the elements for the play button and the audio. Like, they're doing it all for us, which is really neat. But to help out, if a blind person encountered this element on our page, it would really help to tell them what this iframe element is for. So I'm going to say video, and then this video is called Cats and Domino. So that just pulls in the title of this video to give a little more context up front. And so they gave us these handy, this handy code to automatically pull this in. And now if I wanted, I could play the same video here on my page, which is pretty great because there's so many cat videos that if you have favorites, it could really help to archive those and make sure that they don't get lost. So let's see, I've got one more. It was tagged as a dog video, which, really confused me. It says weird dog walks slowly, and I might refresh this. The cat is walking. So there's this cat. Oh, I got another one. It said weird dogs walk slowly, but it's a cat on its hind legs walking around. And then it gets this great to be continued, like it's some kind of sitcom or reality TV show or something. I think this would be a good one to embed in our cat section. So I'm going to go back in here again, go to embed. I'm going to check this enable privacy enhanced mode so I can put this second cat video, because why have just one when you could have two? So I have two cat videos. I'm going to do this change to the 100% again, and I will add a title. I'll say video, weird dog walks slowly. Cats on their hind legs are just weird, bizarre. Okay, so we've got some cat videos. We should really do the same for the dogs. That would really round this out so we could have great dog content too. So similar to how we had an H3 for the cats, I'm going to go in here and add another H3, and we'll say dog videos. That'll go under our text content. And let's go watch which ones have I chosen. So doggo and egg. Pretty good. It's got a kazoo. It's got this dog with an egg on its head, which is very impressive. My dog would not do that, so I'd like to capture that. I'm going to go in here through this process again. I'm going to copy. I will paste, do the 100%, add a title. So video, doggo and egg. So we've got a cool dog video over here now. And we have one more that it says doggo.exe has stopped working, which is a fun nod to a Windows computer that has these executable files. Let's see what happened with this doggo that stopped working. I like it. The dog is just incapacitated. I mean, its eyes are open. It's got a really funny face, but it's really begging for attention by acting like it has stopped working. So we've got another iframe that I can add in here to round out our dog section, make this width fit. It's like once you've changed the width to 100% for one video, if the others don't follow that, it stands out. So it's good to do them all. And I'm going to say title, video, doggo.exe has stopped working. So we've got some good collections here. And depending on what content you're into, this could be a really great way to aggregate everything that, you know, each school year or each month, things that you're just really fascinated by. And over time, you could look back at like, wow, I was really into that. Might be a little embarrassing depending on what the content is, but cats and dogs are evergreen content. They never go out of style, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And as you're doing this, as you are maybe adding a bunch of videos over time, in the same way that Marcy was able to kind of adjust things on the fly, you get more and more familiar with the elements like H2s and paragraphs that are available to you, and you're able to flow a little more smoothly and when you're making your websites.
Absolutely. And, you know, with this example for today, you could also just take the existing example and customize it. So you could, for example, on this main heading on the page, you know, if I wanted to change this from animal friends to my favorite videos or whatever you want your project to be about, you can remix what we've got going so you don't have to remember absolutely every tag. That can be a good way to play with it and tinker and get it into a shape that suits you. So if I were going to do that, I've got this project going. From here, I could say remix project, and that would give me my own copy that I could play with. Let's see, what else do I want to show you? There's also this setting I found since our first stream in here. Under the editor settings, you can make the text wrap and not, and that can be really nice. If that's unchecked and you're having to scroll horizontally, you can wrap the text. That makes it a little easier to have these two panels side by side. And we also have tools down here. If you get into a state where you've made a change and it kind of gets screwed up or something, have no fear. You can go to rewind and it pops up this little panel in Glitch where you can go back through each edit that you've made. So if I was going to go back here, I could, you know, rewind each way. It gets this cute little rewind tape icon. And it's got dates and times. So if you're working on something and you want to go back to a point that you know that it worked, you can kind of scrub back and forward and play around with this. So
that is really awesome. I didn't even know that that was a thing. That
yeah,
is really cool.
I think it's a really neat feature. I think it might have gotten a little stuck here, but it is a really neat feature to know that if you want to play with it, you know, you can remix over and over is another option too, so that you shouldn't have to fear like, oh no, what if I mess it up or what if I break it? That's part of the adventure, honestly, is tinkering, playing with it, breaking it, seeing how far you can push it to get it into a state that works for you. And you can always go back to either using this rewind or going back to another remixed version. Your Glitch homepage, you should be able to find anything that you've worked on and go back and play with it, remix it again. So that's part of the play of creating content that we really wanted to show you how to do.
Absolutely. We got another question in the chat about whether or not you can collaborate on Glitch, and you can, in fact. I am having trouble connecting to Glitch, but right now I can look at I'm back, and I can look at this cat section. So where we say cats are jerks in the block quote, I can come in to the same project and I can say cats are okay.
Yeah, a little less biased there. I think that is a perfectly reasonable update to make. So yeah, to collaborate with your friends, under share, so we've got our little icons here on Glitch and this kind of settings area. And if I hit share, I can invite others to edit by copying this link, and maybe you send it to a friend in a text message or somewhere that you can communicate with people to If they don't have to actually type this out by hand, copying and pasting it, whichever way you can manage to get it over to your friends, they can come over and collaborate with you, which is really fun. There's some share buttons, if you wanted to put a link to this somewhere else on another web page. Maybe you've got like a school forum where you can highlight what you've been playing with in your time off or things you've been working on. There are ways to share your code and collaborate with each other, which can be really fun. So let's see. Oh, and again, just a refresh of the change URL is a shortcut to get this site URL. If you had more than one page, like we did in our last session, you can make it go straight to your second page if you're working on that a lot or something. But that can be really helpful to get people, if you are really excited about your web page and you want to share it, you could share it that way, and you can let anyone, any of your friends come and play. You might have some battles where you're like going back and forth with content. That's where that rewind feature might be useful. Okay, so we've got some cool stuff in here. There's one other element that I think would be fun to talk about, which is the abbreviation element. So let's say we had a very powerful lobby group for the cat lobby, and it was like, I don't know, CASA, like NASA, but with cats. So the cat, what would be we could make up an acronym for a cat association or cat agency. Cat Awareness Space Agency?
CASA. I like it.
So let's say we've got CASA, whatever it stands for. And if you have alternates for the acronym in the chat, this is my favorite type of exercise, is naming things. So I would love to hear your alternate, swap out those letters for different words. But no matter what we decide, there is an element in HTML that we can use that is the abbreviation element, ABVR. So I'm going to wrap the word CASA for our new cat agency with the tag ABVR. And this is a way to provide the full spelling out of it. And in our resources, I have a page on the Mozilla Web Developer docs on advanced text formatting. And there is an ABBR section. So it's ABBR, and then we add the attribute title. So we can go ABBR title and cat, we say like, so yeah, cat advancement space agency, cat, I feel like we need a better word for the second A in here, or first A, sorry. The cat, I think I said awareness at first, but we can swap that out, get creative. Space agency. And it's now added this little underline here to indicate that this has an abbreviation. I sort of expected the browser would show me, oh wait, if I hover over it, it says Cat Awareness Space Agency. So that's pretty cool. It will show me what this abbreviation is, so that if say you're writing about something and you're trying to, use the correct terminology, but everyone might not know what that stands for. Another one that we could use this for is HTML. I could just put this wherever, but HTML is an abbreviation. We could say ABBR title, HyperText Markup Language. And I'm going to make sure that ABBR wraps my text. So this is what we call an inline element. So it is just sitting right next to this other content. So if you were using it in a paragraph or in a sentence, it can sit nicely in line with the rest of the content. I'm going to take that one out because it's not really cat related. I think our Cat Awareness Space Agency is much more fitting for an Animal Friends page.
Important to stay on topic.
Yeah, you really got to keep the scope on things that are related to your page. You can always remix and make a new version if you wanted to talk about coding languages or different types of acronyms. Maybe you have a page where you just dump everything in a kind of a cornucopia project, but this one is definitely focused at cats and dogs, maybe birds or turtles or rabbits. Your own animal friends you could add to this list by remixing it. Okay, so I have one last element that I would like to share before we wrap up for the day. And it's something to separate content. So we've got some, it goes straight from a video into the footer down here at the bottom. There's, kind of a change in context between our dog ipsum and our dog videos. So maybe I wanted to put a bit of separation. I could use what's called a horizontal rule. So after my details element for dog ipsum and before the H3, I'm going to drop this down to another line, and I will say open bracket HR for horizontal rule. And I'm going to put the slash and the closing right angle bracket. So this is a self-closing element, and it creates this horizontal rule. So a line that goes all the way across the screen. It will automatically fill the width of the screen and kind of, doesn't cause scrolling by itself. And so it creates this nice separation. If I just want to add, this is a new section with HTML by itself. We'll learn more next week about how you could style that or use other techniques to create visual separation and things. But I love that HTML has an element for this. And I'm going to add one more down here between our footer, add an HR for a horizontal rule. And so now our footer has a bit of nice separation between the video content and, our copyright, the dog ownership down here at the bottom. So this is looking pretty good. I think we've gotten through everything that I would put on an Animal Friends page. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Aisha, or anyone in the chat?
Ooh, yeah. Do we have any suggestions? Any requests?
Yes, and they might trickle in. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a bit of a delay, so we'll just keep talking. And if you have suggestions that come to mind, we can add them in. If you have favorite animals that you would suggest for your own page, we've got a couple more minutes. But overall, I'd say this is looking pretty good for capturing, favorite cat and dog things on March 27th, 2020.
Yeah, this is looking great. And it's awesome too that we were able to do all of this with HTML. It is built in already for us. We tell the browser how we want to structure the page, and it takes care of that to a really significant degree. We still get like our fun shapes like the heart. We can pull in video. We can visually separate our content as well as give it meaning. So if a user or a visitor to the website can't see, we can still communicate all of that structure and that meaning.
Yeah, I love that. It's so powerful because, we've only covered one of the building blocks of the web platform, which is HTML. And this is really the foundation of it because every website needs HTML, regardless of how fancy it gets or how styled and different ways of making it look. The underlying structure and the content is, we all need to create that. So learning about that first, you can see what the browser gives you for free, and then we can add enhancements on top of that, which is really cool. Especially if you're working in a learning platform, or maybe you're already working and you've got a way that you have to communicate with your coworkers. Having the ability to format your contributions like this is a next level skill that I think will transfer to a lot of different scenarios, even creating your own blogs or all kinds of scenarios where knowing HTML can be really useful. It is one of those, it is one of those things that I learned growing up that it has followed me a long way, because going from, I remember creating newsletters in Microsoft Publisher because I loved aggregating, funny things that were happening. That was a print format, and you could still do that. You can also put your content on the web now and share it with your friends and play around. I mean, we can pull in these YouTube videos and other artifacts. So it's pretty fun what we can do online now. And I think Glitch is a really great tool for collaborating with your friends. So
yeah. We did confirm from Cranberry LaCroix, which I love. who also works at Twitch or at Glitch, sorry, that there is no limit on the number of collaborators that you can have on a Glitch project. That is really awesome. I have seen folks use Glitch for something called mob programming, where you have a huge group of people trying to work and solve a problem with code together, which is really, really, really cool. We also had a suggestion of hamsters for favorite animals from Jaden A. Shiper. And we also had a question about fonts, changing fonts.
Yes. So hamsters, that would be awesome. I mean, depending on how much of your favorite they are, maybe the kitties get bumped out of the way and they're not first anymore. You have the power to structure your pages in the order that you want. So you could put hamsters first, and that would be your prerogative. For adding fonts, we are going to visit that next week. So once we get into styling, so the font here, and I could do a little bit since we have a few more minutes. I just did control click on my Mac and I went to inspect. And in the developer tools, which we looked at briefly last week, I've got this ability to look at what elements are being used here. So what is the browser, reading and then building into this web page? And so next week, we'll start getting into the styling aspect of this. And so if I open these dev tools, there's some other panels here that we haven't talked about yet for styles. And these are the styles that the browser gives us by default. So we've got for H3, it's pulling in what's called the user agent style sheet. So the browser has some default style. That's how we get this bold text, and we can use italics, and it's how these elements have some sort of style. We just haven't really customized the styling aspect so much. We're using what's called the declarative HTML to declare that this is how we want it to be structured, and the browser will italicize for emphasis or whatever we specify. You can also look at this computed tab over here. So I'm in Chrome Developer Tools. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I can go and look for any H3. I maybe made this a little too big. So dog videos. Let's go down to this dog videos H3. I can go and inspect the styling of it. And next week, we'll get into what all of these items are, how to specify them. But the default font is Times. So this is what my computer is matching. That's what it has installed by default. And so that's what the browser uses. So we'll look at how to add fonts using Google Fonts next week. We'll talk about how to customize them with CSS. That's what all these items over here are for color and font size and margins and things like that. So you can add more space, position things differently. There's some really neat features in here that we will start to build on our HTML. But to give you a bit of a glimpse into next week's streams, that is where we're going, is how to customize this and make it look how you want. Including, which fonts are on your computer versus making sure that every computer or every phone will have a consistent style. So stay tuned for that. I think we can probably leave it there unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, we'll pause for a second to make sure that everybody has a chance to type in the chat and for us to be able to see it. But this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if you aren't already following us on Twitch, now is a great time to follow the Gatsby JS Twitch channel, and you'll get a notification every time we go live. Keep in mind, not all of our programs are Gatsby web creators. We also do some pair programming, some, Gatsby tutorials, but, maybe you'll find you're interested in that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll build on this from week to week to gradually give you all of these building blocks of creating web pages. Eventually, we will get to JavaScript and creating more interactive experiences, kind of in the pursuit of getting more robust functionality and styling, ultimately to build bigger websites, maybe using Gatsby. but there's a lot of stuff that we can play with these basics that are really transferable skills. So if you have like discoveries and excitement, get in touch with us. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to our captioner as always. And we will rejoin the stream next Wednesday, same time.
Yep, back on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks.